So after giving myself a haircut today and dyeing my hair, well, I've dyed my hair for years. Usually I've just got my own haircut, or I call it my many hairs cut, by a hairdresser, but since today is the 29th of March 2020, been on quarantine for a while. So, I'm going to get back to the Volume 1 of The Adventures of Susan MeeLing, Scuba Diver Extraordinaire, written by Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, Susan MeeLing, Reverend MeeLing. I've got a few names, nicknames, I should say. And Volume 1 is chapters 1 through 4 in a 3-part book series. So, starting on page 124 to continue on, in reference to various pictures I have taken, so both in film and digital, so from 2001, I think, would be the first time I started really getting pictures developed from the area in San Antonio, Texas. I had no idea about digital cameras, to be honest. That might have thrown a few people off, because apparently digital cameras were around for a while, and I had no idea. And it was not until 2000, I want to say 2008 or 2009, that I got my first digital camera. And yeah, I wound up giving that DSLR camera, the digital SLR camera, to my biological father. Gave that to him because I was able to take pictures. It wasn't that I wasn't able to take pictures. I was just able to get better pictures at a film camera than I was at a digital on land. Now, underwater, that's a whole other ball of wax. But I'm also extremely particular when it comes to my pictures. So, so when I first started getting pictures done, and I don't mean portrait pictures, or later on when in reference to portrait pictures, myself with my now dead ex-husband, but my children, my son and my daughter, but then later on modeling pictures. When I started getting pictures developed, for the times that I didn't have this hair, number one, I'm going to guesstimate my fingerprints on the exterior of the envelopes are a, huge giveaway on that. But also, whatchamacallit, I would, especially when I didn't have this hair, not that it was any different when my hair was like this, I'm the person in the surveillance pictures who's going through each individual picture and making piles, because I never got less than 5 or 10 rolls of film developed at once. Not that I didn't take that many pictures because I was taking pictures of my children. I mean, yeah, in some of them, my now dead ex-husband was alive, but usually it was just a bunch of pictures of my children or the surrounding area. So I just, yeah. You caught me. And since Walmart at that time, they were like, yeah, so you can pick which ones you want to keep and which ones, I was like, oh, okay, well then, and I went through and that would be me. Hi. That was me. Guess you figured that out by now. And so I took a lot of pictures. but with the DSLR, I do have to admit with that, so I do apologize because when at one Air Force show, or maybe two, I might have taken some pictures that a few individuals were like, how? And I mean, yes, I did have a, was it 1,000mm zoom lens that I got because I knew I was going to go to an air show and I thought it'd be really cool. But no, I wasn't in any airplanes. Nope, I was not into airplanes. I just was able to get those pictures. I just stood a little taller, you know, and you know, those pictures were like, what was it? I think it was so it's the Navy Thunderbirds, and then it's the Air Force Blue Angels. No, I'm sorry, my mistake. I know I'm not trying to. It's the Navy Blue Angels and the Air Force Thunderbirds. That's what it is. And yeah, no, I was on the ground. I just stood a little taller. And I did take those pictures. I didn't realize I could do any issues, so I do apologize. That's what I'm apologizing for. But I wasn't intending to cause any harm. I hope that's known. So, I mean, I guess to me that's been figured out. But, yeah. I mean, I was not on any aircraft, obviously. You know, I mean, at the air shows, I think my hair was the way it is now, minus the waxing. And, or at this point, shaving. Yep. That was me. And then, yeah, it was two different air shows, because the first air show was the one we're walking around and James was doing like the climbing stuff and Lydia was jumping around and the different things. And then that one was at, I think it was Randolph. It was Randolph Air Force Base. And the second one was either at Kelly or at Lackland. And that would be, there was a situation where there was my children, my son and my daughter, wanted to go into the bounce house. And it was at the second one. It was the one at either Kelly Air Force Base or Lackland. And I had said that I didn't want them going into the bounce house. I felt like there was something wrong. And it wasn't any offense towards any of that. It was just there was something that felt a little off. So I was like, you know, why don't you go on the teacup ride? And it would, you know, those little teacups that they spin around and stuff. And the winds changed dramatically. The time, so I don't know what it was. The clouds just came out of nowhere. And there was a huge gust of wind that kicked up, and I looked over, and the inflatable bounce house, essentially the the tent spokes either came undone or something, and the air connection thing got disconnected, and it was deflating really quickly. So I yelled out and I wasn't trying to be rude to any of the airmen, soldiers that were there, but I just started calling out, hey, over here, and you get that side, you get that side, and you pull there, and called out for the parents to get their children, to get them out of the bounce house that was rapidly deflating. And everybody was able to do their part, and really quickly. I mean, extremely quickly. By the time my children got off of the teacup ride, that's how long it took, which obviously isn't very long. And everybody was able to get their children out, lifted up the part that had deflated a little bit too much, and got I think it was either 1.5 or 3 years old, a little boy out, got him out from the pit, because it was a 2-story bounce house. And but everybody got out, and after that whole thing, my biological father, he looked and saw what was going on as I was just doing everything, and he just, okay. And Anna, my biological mother, was not paying the slightest bit of attention. And when my children got off the teacup ride, I'm walking back over and like, hey James, hey Lydia, did you guys have fun? And they're like, yeah, I want to do it again. And I was like, no, I think we better go. I had already said thank you to the different soldiers and the airmen that were there, and and that were able to help, and just see you guys later. Got to the van. And Anna was going on about whatever she was complaining about, because we just didn't learn. It's like, yeah, it was time to go. My head really, really hurts right now, and I had to speak really, really loudly. So I'm kind of done right now. I need to lay down. And Mike was speechless. He was just completely like, what just happened? My daughter just like commanded a whole bunch of soldiers, and they all listened without like hesitation at all. They didn't blink an eye. They instantly were like on point. And what? She didn't graduate basic training. How did she do that? What? I didn't take any pictures of that because, in the middle of stuff, it was like not important for me to grab a camera. But that was me. That was me who was yelling. It took a lot, but it is what it is. But everybody was able to get their kids out and just whatever. Ta-da. But yeah, back to the pictures. I just stood up taller, and I wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble or anything like that. I did do what I could, as far as like it's not photoshopped. none of the pictures or anybody who knows techie stuff, as far as I'm concerned, knows I am not techie to like do that sort of stuff. So to do what I could, I tried to angle when I took the pictures to prevent the controls from being seen. I tried to either have the sunlight kind of beam the right way, so that way, you know, you really couldn't see the controls. So I would guesstimate that's probably why I haven't been questioned about that. Yeah, despite the fact that, yeah, I took the pictures from the ground and just stood up a little bit taller and that's it. But yeah, that was me. Yeah, I was just doing what I could to, you know, make sure that that wasn't an issue. So, that was me. And so, yeah, and I got the majority of pictures developed at Walmart and stuff like that. And sometimes Sam's Club. And I did, when in reference to, so there was a point where Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., he was doing some like event, you know, one of those, he really wanted me to see the World War II event, and I was like, well, James and Lydia can take it as a learning experience. And since I know I'm going to do this, let me do it in black and white film, because back then they didn't have color, you know, film, so it'd be pretty cool to do it in black and white. And so, whatchamacallit, took some, I only used like 1 or 2 rolls of the black and white film, and, yeah, that was me. I thought that would be a nice little artistic touch. Despite the fact the cameras back then weren't nearly like what they are now, but that's just a personal thing. Yeah, there was, later, when I was engaged, first time around, to the same guy that I was engaged to twice, used the black and white film for pictures of us, because I thought it would look nice. But I'm not engaged, so that is what it is. So yeah, so I had done that, and yeah, there were some pictures at the Gulf Coast when my children were about 3 or 4 years old that I took, and those were with film, the ones with all the streaks and the lights and stuff like that, and that was just some energetic stuff coming out and playing and stuff, and then whatchamacallit, I know that there were several times I caught Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., around my medication. And whatchamacallit, got to the point where it just didn't feel right or comfortable. It was just like, why are you in my medicine bag? What are you touching my stuff for? And so I noticed that there were times where he gave me my medication, and I would actually fall asleep, which was really weird, because the medication I was supposed to be taking at that time wasn't supposed to make me sleepy. And so, yeah, and he wasn't the only one. That would be also Philip Olmsted. I caught him messing with my medications, and Patrick Kennedy, Alpha Gen X. Those 3 males, multiple times I caught them messing around with my pills, and I was like, leave that alone. I have a difficult enough time taking care of stuff, so I don't need you messing with my stuff. And by the time everything went the way it did, and in 2013, though Jesse Leroy Hoover Jr. Had initially brought up about how I was much calmer with MJ. You know, there were a couple of times that I did catch him near the pills and stuff like that. And that was all the way up until Lakewood. About that time, I felt that I needed to, number one, in that area, I couldn't take the medications at all. And then number two, the MMJ really was much more helpful than, I really don't like discussing that because of the stereotype when it comes to marijuana. I really don't like discussing that. I know I'm not the only person who has found the benefits behind that, but I just don't like the stereotype. I mean, realistically, you know, obviously completing the stuff that I did with, you know, the 8 different books and my Medal of Honor art project, all the stuff that it took to do that, as far as like the planning and all that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to do it without it, but still don't like talking about it. It's a personal thing. It does help with my headaches. There are things that help much better than that. But, you know, since like that's not an option at this point, and it hasn't been an option for several years because that individual was not able to come close to keeping up with me in any way, shape, or form. And at all, whatsoever. I had to, it literally, I was told it was a chore for him to be with me. I was literally told it was a chore. That is what it is. But I guess, you know, kind of like being with Cactus Jack was a chore the entire time. Same thing with just, but in a different way, because it wasn't just, you know, in that, it was like an overall sort of way where it was like a chore because I didn't want to date him to begin with. Personal thing, but going back to scuba diving, once in Carrollton, Texas, I had done some online research to see if there was anything that would be more helpful, because the opposite in regards to where my now ex-boyfriend, Jesse Leroy Hoover Jr., it was a chore for him to be with me. It was a chore for me to be with Cactus Jack in that way. And so after breaking up with him and myself being the way I am, can't just with anybody. And so, and he wouldn't get out of the house. So that was kind of like, well, I mean, even if I wanted to date, I can't because he won't leave and leave me alone. So, you know, great, you know, killjoy. Literally. I can't. Yeah, how, for those who would be like, oh no, what, no. How many people want to start a relationship where the ex-boyfriend won't get out of the house, won't leave, you know, in that case, me alone, so that way I could actually date? Nobody would want to, yeah. And then the creep factor that Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., was, real, probably still is, but I would guesstimate. I have no proof on that, but I'm just going to guesstimate on that. So, And he wouldn't leave. Like, throughout my SCUBA certifications, it took him months to get out of the house. Again, I had to drive him back to San Antonio to get rid of him. I mean, it was ridiculous. It really, really was. I had to pack his stuff up to put it in the car to get him out of my house and take him back to San Antonio. I had broken up with him before. I think by the time I broke up with him, it was just before my birthday, shortly after Grandpa Nichols passed away and died, and he would not get out of the house. He wouldn't leave until I literally packed all his stuff, similar to Philip Armstead. Get out. Leave me alone. Don't want to. Part of no, don't you understand? You know, and no, goodbye. It's over. It's so over. It was over months ago, and apparently you're not getting the memo, so okay. And then I found out after taking him back to San Antonio, he hadn't been paying the car note for about the time that he had been dumped. And I was like, really? Like, I would have taken care of that and not had an issue at all. So, like, what was it, like 6 or 7 months? And I was like, yeah, that was his way of being vindictive while still living. I don't know how he thought that was going to go, because it's not like I would have taken him to anywhere. I mean, like, realistically. So, you know, it was one of those, like, get out. Leave me alone. I'm not going to get back with you. And he tried multiple times. Can't we? No. I'm not interested. You're not my type. You're not anything that I want to be with. I didn't want to be with you to begin with. You know I didn't want to be with you to begin with, because you know that in the garage for hours you were interrogated. Not really interrogated, just, you know, every single physical flaw that I had at the time. Not that I don't have more, but that is what it is. You know, was pointed out. My now dead ex-husband was like, well, look at her chest, and look at this, and look at this, and this is what's wrong, and this is what's wrong, and this is what's wrong, and, you know, or, you know, you can tolerate being with someone who looks like her, and all that sort of stuff just kept me up, like, literally on the block, because it was in the garage, there were steps, and he's just like, look at this, look what's wrong here, look what's wrong here, look at this, look at this, look at this. And Cactus Jack's like, well, you know, I guess, like, you know, I hate you both. I hate you both. I hate you both so much. So much. Sexist, misogynist. So, before going any further, I'm just gonna stop there, because, you know, there's like actual stuff that I can focus on. I mean, I did focus on quite a few different topics, which are but yeah, I will get the next video going on a much happier note than, you know, those worthless pieces of trash that don't even deserve to be composted. Personal opinion. You guys have a good one.